Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Matt here, and we back with another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. So, what we're going to get into today is going to be Nate Diaz, if you want to give him the A side, or Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, whichever one you want to give top billing first. This weekend, Paul versus Diaz goes down. It's going to be a boxing match. It's going to be 10 rounds, and we're going to jump off into it right now. So, one of the worst things that could possibly happen in combat sports is when a fight is made too late. Like when you think of like Floyd Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao, a fight that it had been made 3, 4, 5, 6 years prior to, way different. That might have been a little bit too far. Let's say maybe 3 years prior to, maybe 4 years prior to. Way different fight, way more intriguing, way more interesting. I don't know if the outcome would be different. However, still way different fight. When you think about mixed martial arts, this is one that a lot of people, I don't know if a lot of people ever bring up or anything, but just in my opinion, if Conor McGregor would have fought Khabib for the lightweight championship, so basically going there defending the belt right after he KO'd Eddie Alvarez, bro, that does not change the outcome. I think Khabib still would have washed him, or at least I think Khabib still would have beat him. However, way more intriguing of a fight. Way more intriguing. If you could have got that Conor, that Madison Square Garden Conor, you know what I'm saying? I can barely talk and say it. That Conor that had that white polar bear suit, that white polar bear fur coat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, bro, a la Joe Frazier. You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, that would have been way different. You know what I'm saying? This is Conor that was grabbing the chair in Madison Square Garden. Eddie Alvarez is like, oh, he got a chair. Like, you know what I'm saying? Bro, that Conor versus Khabib would have been very interesting. That fight was also made too late because by the time we got Conor coming back to face Khabib, it was like, bro, this Conor, he had cut a little bit different. Like this Conor, he's 75, 80 million up in the game. You know what I'm saying? He won't all of the, you know what I'm saying? This is a different Conor. He got proper 12. He got 12 different types of bourbon. He got whiskey. He got everything. You know what I'm saying? Speedboats, you know, ladies of the night, you know what I'm saying? He got all kind of stuff. By the time he fought Khabib, it was like, bruh, what are we doing here? Khabib Drake go out here and wash him. And that's what happened. But bro, here's what I'm saying. There's nothing worse than when you get a fight just a little bit too late. Because as a fight fan, you understand what it probably could have been. And that's where I'm at with Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. So, let's start with Jake Paul. If we could have gotten this fight a few years ago, this would have been way different. And really, there's two factors for Jake Paul. If we could have got this fight a few years ago, I'm thinking if we could have got the Jake Paul that defeated Tyron Woodley when he knocked him out, sent him to the earth, you know what I'm saying? If we could have got that Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz, that's very intriguing. Or if we could have got Jake Paul prior to losing to Tommy Fury. And this is why. You know, I don't claim to be the biggest like boxing person, aficionado or nothing, as you may know. It's your boy Matt, you know what I'm saying? But I'm a huge fan of classic boxing. You know, the Four Horsemen, you know, Whitaker, you know, we're talking about Golden Boy. We're talking about that Golden Boy, Oscar De La Hoya, you know, Shane Mosley, you know, back in the day. I love just going back and watching those fights just to watch them. But, you know, the thing about it is this. I mean, man, it doesn't take much to see. It doesn't take much boxing knowledge to understand or to know that we don't even care about Tommy Fury. All right. We understand that Tommy Fury, compared to Jake Paul, is probably a fairly skilled boxer, or maybe a really skilled boxer compared to Jake Paul. But the fact of the matter is, MMA fans, we ain't not checking for no Tommy Fury. We might check for Tyson Fury, but we ain't checking for Tommy. So when he fought Tommy, when the whole lead up, when he was supposed to fight him the first 2 or 3 times, I never really cared. When he finally fought Tommy Fury, it was just like, bro, did you just go out here and gas and lose to Tommy Fury? You know, and I'm not no Jake Paul fan, so I like anybody that beats up Jake Paul, but bro, we don't care about no Tommy Fury. So after he lost to Tommy Fury, that took a little bit away, because part of the shine is Jake Paul is always going in, he was always going in the ring against a lot of the time MMA fighters in which he had a lot of attributes over. The sell of the fight is, here's a guy that's younger, that is stronger, possibly faster, has more stamina, versus a fighter who might be older, smaller, might not have as much stamina because he is older, however, possesses all the experience in fighting that Jake Paul does not have. However, it's a boxing match. So that makes it even more intriguing, because not only does this fighter, being the MMA fighter, have all of the knowledge, the wealth of knowledge of fighting, and Jake Paul doesn't, but also we're going to put it in boxing, which is primarily, this is the main thing, the only thing that Jake Paul does as far as, you know, athleticism, as far as competing, is boxing. So when you think about it, you're like, okay, I guess this might kind of even out. But as we've seen before, you know, it didn't. And Jake Paul was able to go out here and sometimes just edge his fighter out and barely beat him. And sometimes he can go out there and just wash him and get him out of there like, oh, Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley's such a, gosh. Anyway, we ain't gonna get into Tyron Woodley. Anyway, so the thing about it is when you're looking at it, it's like, that's the two factors. We needed Jake Paul, you know, like 2 or 3 fights ago. We wanted him, you know, and then we wanted to see, when we're talking about Nate Diaz, primarily, if we had a time machine, we could go back in time, you know what I'm saying, go get in our DeLorean, you know what I'm saying, Marty, you know, and hit 88 miles per hour and go back in time in our DeLorean. Here's the thing, bro. The Nate Diaz that you want to fight Jake Paul is that Conor McGregor Nate Diaz. You want that Nate Diaz that fought Conor the first time and the second time. You know what I'm saying? That's that hungry Nate Diaz. That was before all the money and everything. All the sponsorships, the endorsements. That was before the CBD company, the weed line, the strains, everything. That was back in the day. The clothing line. It's back before all of that. That was before Real Fight Inc. That was back in the day. That Nate Diaz would have been perfect and primed to fight Jake Paul. You know, at the latest, Nate Diaz that went out there and watched Anthony Pettis, went out there and beat Pettis at 170. I mean, that's the Nate Diaz you would have wanted to have seen against Jake Paul. That Diaz didn't give a F. That Diaz will give you the finger. That Diaz will cuss you out. That Diaz wasn't going to take nothing off of you. And his style of building up a fight, while he would generally stay calm like he is right now, you know, act like he didn't care about the fight, act like he didn't care about his opponent. But as they got closer to the weigh-ins and closer to the fight, Nate Diaz was ramping it up. He wasn't going to be all out there all animated like Conor. He wasn't doing all of that, you know what I'm saying? But he was going to be a little bit more animated, you know what I'm saying, as the fight gets closer. And he might throw a water bottle at you. You never know. You know what I'm saying? So here's the thing. That's the fight that we really want. That's the fight that we thought it was going to be. You know, that was the fight that we thought it was going to be. In our mind, we're picturing that version of Nate Diaz going in there with Jake Paul. Okay. So let's get a little bit more realistic with the time frame. We ain't got no time machine. But if you could have went back and did this, if this fight was, if it had to happen, you need to do this fight right before the time that we was all on lockdown and couldn't go nowhere, or shortly after that ended, very shortly. I still think that Nate Diaz would have been more viable, more intriguing. You would have wanted to see the fight more. What we're getting now, though, is something way different. You got a Jake Paul who's already lost to Tommy Fury. You got a Nate Diaz who lost to Leon Edwards, okay, lost to Jorge Masvidal, okay. Both of those he didn't never look like he was really into the fight. Which, a little caveat, a little side note. When Nate Diaz fought Leon Edwards, okay, let's just get down to that. Nate Diaz made a tremendous mistake in that fight. Because Leon Edwards is clearly the better fighter, all right? We all know that. No question. Clearly the better fighter. But the fact that in the last few seconds of that fight, Nate finally catches him with a punch and wobbles Leon Edwards. Wobbles him bad. Leon wobble, you know what I'm saying? Leon knees is going together. Leon doing, he pulling out dances. He got the stanky leg, the Tootsie Roll, and everything else. You know what I'm talking about? So, here's the thing, man. So, the man is wobbled clearly. And instead of Nate Diaz rushing him to get him out of there, because he was wobbled to a point, I mean, I'm no fighter, but from my eye, the way it looked like that, yeah, if you rush in, Leon's going to throw a right hand, maybe a left hand, but you should, you know what I'm saying? You should be able to slip that and then finish him. You know what I'm saying? Finish him, swarm him Nate Diaz style. Light shot, solid, hard shot. Light shot, hard shot. He should have been able to get him out of there. Instead, I almost believe that Nate had kind of made up his own mind, like, bro, I'm getting ready to lose this fight. I'm just going to go all the way to the end. And I think when he caught him, it shocked him. I think it shocked Nate to the point where all he could do was, ha ha, and point at him and laugh. Then he tried to swarm him, but by that time he had missed those vital seconds. Because when he did swarm him, he didn't really swarm him that much with shots. He was still kind of gun shy almost. I'm not saying he was, but he kind of was. And that was his chance to get Leon out of there, and pound for pound would have been the best fight of his whole career. Best win, I should say. But he didn't. Nevertheless, now we've seen Nate get beaten by all these different fighters, and at this point, you can tell his motivation to go into these fights and try to show us a glimpse of that old Nate Diaz wasn't really there. The Nate Diaz you're dealing with right now, we talking about, this is Nate Diaz. It's quite a few million up. You know what I'm saying? We talking about UFC fight millions. We talking about endorsement deal millions. He got a clothing line. He got his own fight promotion, Real Fight Inc. He's got his own weed strain. He's got a CBD line. I mean, it's a whole lot of stuff going on. This Nate has he ain't hurting for money. But what you're seeing a Nate that just doesn't seem hungry to go in there and fight Jake Paul. I'm not saying that he won't. He's definitely going to go in there and fight him. But he doesn't seem like he has that hunger. And it's kind of cringy when you're watching this press conference. I know he showed a little fire at that. But it's kind of cringy because you're seeing Jake Paul try anything he can to rattle Nate Diaz so Nate will react to something. And it's not working. And frankly, if he did this, kudos to Jake Paul. I wonder if he slid a couple $100 to that little weird dude out in the audience that keeps trying to pick a fight with Nick Diaz and Nate Diaz. Because that was the only thing that ever got Nate riled up. So if Jake Paul, I believe at one point that guy was somehow affiliated with MVP or with Jake Paul or something. I don't know. That might be rumor and innuendo. I don't know. But it's like, if he did that, if he slid that dude like $200, it was like, look, bro, I need for you to stand up and ask him this question. All right. That was good. That was good money. That money was well spent. Because it was the only thing that ever riled Nate Diaz to get him to even care about what's going on. Outside of that, because earlier in the press conference, Nate Diaz is picking a fight with Jake Paul's bodyguard. He's caring more about picking a fight with the bodyguard than Jake Paul. And I know a lot of people are like, that's what the Diaz brothers do. That's what they do. And it's like, no, bro. As I said, the old Nate Diaz, He acted like he didn't care about his opponent or he didn't care about the fight. But as it got closer, he became more dialed in. I don't see that with this Nate. Now, the weigh-ins haven't taken place yet, so, or ceremonial weigh-ins, I should say. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but it just wasn't there. And then on top of that, when you look at the all four guys, right? Nate Diaz, Nick Diaz, Jake Paul, Logan Paul. The Paul brothers are not a package deal, all right? Like, we only need one Paul brother. You know what I'm saying? We barely need one, but we only need one Paul brother. We don't need both of them, all right? They don't have to both be in the same place at the same time. Part of the Diaz magic is both of the brothers together. And back in the day, when you would see both brothers together, it charged you up more to see the fight because they somewhat play off of each other. And then when Nick Diaz was suspended for so long, it was the fact that Nate Diaz always made you feel like his brother was there, or his brother would definitely, most definitely be there if he wasn't suspended. It was like he kept that vision alive when he would be doing these press conferences and he would be like, yeah, my brother was here. Yeah, my brother was here, da da da. And it's like, bro, that worked. That Diaz aura, you know what I'm saying? It's the two of them together. They're kind of a package deal. You're looking at this, it's another thing that's suffering. Where is Nick Diaz? You know what I'm saying? I ain't seen him all week. If he's there, I haven't seen a lot of coverage of him. And I'm like, bro, is Nick Diaz even aware his brother is fighting? You know what I'm saying? Like, does he even know that the man is fighting at all? Like, I don't know. But he might not. He might literally be sitting over texting and calling Nate like, he's not picking up the phone. I don't know. Anybody? I don't know. Like, I don't know. So in my opinion, this fight just ain't hitting like we thought it was gonna hit from a few years ago. A few years ago, it was like, man, if you could have got that Jake Paul right after he knocked out Tyson Wood, I said Tyson Woodley, Tyron Woodley, Tyson Woodley. It's a whole other beast. Y'all want none of that Tyson Woodley. You know what I'm saying? If we could have got him right after he had knocked out Tyron Woodley, put him in a fight with Nate right then before all the Tommy Fury crap, that might have been a little bit more sellable. But I just feel like at this moment, like, fans just aren't really worried about seeing that. I guess Jake Paul fans, I guess Nate Diaz fans, which I'm a Diaz brother fan. It's just not really, the oomph is not there. And with that being said, I mean, straight up, I hate to do it, but I got to pick Jake Paul to win. I mean, that's not no hot take. That take ain't scorching. That take ain't scalding, but I got to go along with Jake Paul. And I don't think Jake Paul's going to knock out Nate Diaz, but I think one thing Jake Paul has on his side is a boxing referee. So in a sense, the way I see this fight playing out, I don't think it's going to go the distance. The distance would be 10 rounds. But if it goes the distance, I got Jake Paul by decision. Outside of that, I believe what's going to happen is Jake Paul is going to... I think Nate Diaz is going to get in a few shots on Jake. I think he will connect with a few shots. But I feel like Jake Paul's going to connect with the heavier shots. I think after the first few rounds, it'll probably be fairly back and forth. Might be a little bit boring. Because, Nate likes to do counter striking, a lot of counter shots, and he'll sit there and laugh at you and point at you and, kind of toy with you. And, I think by about middle of the way through the fight, maybe about the 4th, 5th round, 6th round, I think Jake Paul will start pouring it on. I don't think he's going to swarm Nate, but I think he'll catch Nate with a shot that'll rock him, wobble him a little bit. The referee will halt the action, check Nate, make sure he's good to go. Nate will start again. Then Jake Paul will catch him again with a shot, either more towards the end of that round or the beginning of the following round. And once Nate is wobbled, the referee will wave the fight off. So I feel like Jake Paul's going to win by referee stoppage, or he's going to win by decision. That's just what it is. Um, you know, in a perfect world for an MMA fan, if Nate Diaz is going to win this fight, the only way I see it happening, there's a possibility that if it goes to the later rounds, Jake Paul might gas out again like he did in his previous fight, and then Nate Diaz might be able to swarm him, hit him, with those pitter patter shots, and then out of nowhere there's a power shot thrown behind him. And I think he could probably go the distance and win on the scorecards. If Jake Paul is tired enough, Nate could get him out of there, maybe. But I don't, that's far fetched. I think it's far fetched to think Nate Diaz is going to win this. So I got to go along with Jake Paul, either by decision or by referee stoppage. But this fight just doesn't seem as big as we thought it would be a few years ago. It's just in my opinion. But you guys let me know, is that Matt or is it fact? You let me know what you think about it. Do you think this fight is as huge as we thought it would be a few years ago when it was just kind of rumors, rumbling? It maybe if these two ever fought, this would be huge. I don't know. You let me know. It's going down this weekend. I said Logan Paul, not him. Jake Paul steps in there with Nate Diaz. Main event, main event boxing fight. MVP Entertainment being, Jake Paul's company. Real Fight Inc. being Nate Diaz. Main event is going down. Also, UFC Nashville going down. Both of those shows. We'll see how it all plays out. But I appreciate you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.